Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, which they stated that this was a sold-out show tonight for Dynamite, which is good. And this was the Fallout show from Full Gear, which was this past Saturday, which I watched Full Gear, and I thought it was a good show. The card was great. You had, Eddie Kingston. He ended up defeating Jun Akiyama. Eddie Kingston won this dream match with Akiyama, and he got it. Which that was shown on the 0 hour buy-in. Ricky Starks defeated Brian Cage in the AEW World Championship Eliminator Tournament semifinal. And we saw the Death Triangle versus the Elite. The Elite end up returning. It was a 6-man tag for the AEW World Trios Championship, which this was match 1 in a best-of-7 series, which the Death Triangle and the Elite are going to have. We saw match 2 tonight on Dynamite, and I thought their first match at Full Gear was very good. I liked how the Elite ended up coming out. They had the song Carry On Wayward Son by Kansas. So that was pretty cool. And we also saw Jade Cargill defeated Nyla Rose. Jade Cargill still retains the TBS Championship, which, who cares? Then Chris Jericho defeated Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara in the 4-way match for the ROH World Championship, which that was a very entertaining match. Saraya versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. I thought it was a okay match. It didn't live up to the hype level, in my opinion. This was Saraya's first match in the ring again in like 6 years. So it was pretty cool. But we had Dr. Britt Baker in that match. She ended up carrying Saraya. And then we had Saraya versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, which this was Saraya's first match in the ring in 5 years after she had to retire because of, her neck injury, her serious neck injury. And I thought the match was okay, but in my opinion, not the best return for Saraya's first match in 5 years. Pretty much Britt Baker was carrying Saraya through the match. Saraya showed no signs of ring rust, and she moved pretty well. And she ended up winning the match by defeating the Doctor. And then we saw the 3-way match with the TNT Championship on the line. Wardlow defended the title against Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Will Hobbs. And Samoa Joe ended up coming out with the win. And it was a pretty good match also. Samoa Joe is now Joe 2 belts because he is now holding the TNT Championship and the Ring of Honor Television Championship. So good on Samoa Joe. But let's face it, Wardlow did nothing with the TNT Championship. How they book Wardlow is absolutely awful. Every single week, they feed jobbers after jobber after jobber after jobber to Wardlow, where he's basically just squashing these jobbers. Might as well call him Squashlow, because that's what they book him in. Oh, let's have Wardlow come out there. Let's give him a guy that he could squash. Yeah, that's the booking of Wardlow when he was the TNT champion. And then we saw Sting and Darby Allin versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, no disqualification match, which was decent in my opinion. Sting and Darby Allin end up coming out with the win. Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship, or the interim AEW Women's World Championship. Jamie Hayter ended up coming out with the win. So she is the AEW Women's World Champion, or interim AEW Women's World Champion, which something with the Women's World Championship tonight I will get to, because we had an announcement that happened on Dynamite with the title, which I'll get to. And then the Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory for the AEW World Tag Team Championship, which the Acclaimed end up retaining the titles. And then we had not sort of a breakup with Swerve in Our Glory, but we had just Keith Lee end up just walking away from Swerve. So not necessarily a breakup, but it was a good match. And then, of course, the main event, MJF versus Jon Moxley, AEW World Championship on the line. And MJF is new AEW World Champion. It's about time. And it was all thanks to William Regal. William Regal ended up helping MJF win the match. And defeat Jon Moxley. So, a long time coming for MJF as the world champion. But overall, Full Gear was a very good show, in my opinion. And the Newark crowd there in Jersey was absolutely loud and very good. They made noise throughout the night. Those are my thoughts on Full Gear. Moving on to Dynamite tonight, which Dynamite was a entertaining show. It was a very good show. We saw Orange Cassidy versus Jake Hager, where the All-Atlantic Championship was on the line. We had Ricky Starks versus Ethan Page in the AEW World Championship Eliminator Tournament. The winner of this match will get to take on MJF at Winter is Coming. And pretty much basically, well, I'll get to explaining about the tournament, what they build this up to, this Eliminator Tournament. We had match 2 in the best of 7 series match with the Death Triangle and the Elite. We had a 3-way women's tag team match, Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker versus Ty Melo, Anna Jay, Will Nightingale, and Skye Blue. And the main event, the Ring of Honor World Championship was on the line. Chris Jericho, the Ocho, defend the title against Tomohiro Ishii. But overall, Dynamite tonight was a very entertaining show. But anyways, let's jump right into the review on this Thanksgiving Eve. Dynamite opened up tonight with William Regal. William Regal was in the ring, and the Chicago crowd booed him. And William Regal got on the mic. He kept saying, "Would you like to hear from your new world champion in MJF?" Regal ended up saying, "Oh, you'll hear from him next week, and that he doesn't have time to come to places like Chicago." Regal ended up saying that Mr. Friedman is on a set of a major motion picture, and I am sure you're wondering what the union is. And it's true. MJF got cast in a film. It's going to be a biopic about the Von Erich family. It's going to be called The Iron Claw. It's an A24 film, and Zac Efron is going to be in it. Great Zac Efron. Unbelievable. So William Regal called the crowd uncahoot, and we had a "fuck you Regal" chant break out. Regal ended up saying that a number of weeks ago, he sent an email, and MJF will explain it next week. So Jon Moxley made his way through the crowd. Moxley was irate. And so we heard a "you fucked up" chant break out to Regal. So Moxley ended up making his way into the ring. Bryan Danielson ran down to the ring, and he put himself in between Regal and Moxley. Bryan ended up holding Moxley back, and he tried to separate the both of them. So Bryan grabbed the mic. He ended up saying, "Listen, Mox, I don't know why he did what he did. He did a bad thing. But we've all done bad things. And please, I ask you, he's got a bad neck, and 2 brain bleeds don't hurt him." So Moxley was pacing around the ring, drawing away at Bryan, irate. Bryan then slapped Moxley, which he ended up apologizing to Moxley, but Moxley got very infuriated. So Bryan ended up telling Moxley, "You know your struggles. My dad struggled with it too. And that's more than wrestling. And when he struggled, I didn't understand." He ended up saying, "But Regal taught me." And Bryan was like to Moxley, "Oh, block the fans out and listen," because the fans were chanting bullshit as what Bryan was saying to Moxley about, "Oh, my dad struggled with this too." So the fans were chanting bullshit at that to Bryan. So Bryan ended up saying, "Because of William Regal, I could understand his struggles. And before my dad passed, I could love him." He ended up saying, "Imagine somebody teaching your daughter to love you in spite of your struggles." Bryan ended up saying that he loves William Regal, but Moxley was just staring on. Moxley then grabbed the ropes, and he was thinking about things, and he turned around, he grabbed the mic from Bryan. Moxley walked up to William Regal. They were face to face. Moxley ended up saying to Regal, "Lordship, I only want one thing from you." So Moxley ended up telling Regal, "I want you to run. Run far away, as far as you can, and you never come back." So Moxley was like to William Regal, "Right now, walk and keep on walking." So Moxley intimidated Regal. Regal slowly left the ring. Moxley was still staring Regal down. Regal then slowly walked up the ramp. Mox and Bryan end up looking conflicted as the crowd was chanting, "Na na na na, hey hey hey, goodbye," to William Regal. And pretty much that was basically how this segment ended. But I thought this was a good segment to open up Dynamite, but at the same time, an issue here. We never got an explanation as to why William Regal helped out MJF at Full Gear. So, no explanation to that. But it looks like the Blackpool Combat Club is over. And when Moxley ended up telling William Regal, "Oh, I want you to run. Run far away as you can, and you never come back." Is this a sign that maybe William Regal might be done with AEW? And if it is, then we might possibly see William Regal back in WWE. If that's the case. So if that's the case that William Regal might leave AEW, Triple H has William Regal on speed dial. But we'll see where this goes. But this was a good opening to Dynamite tonight. Overall, with that one little issue. So then we saw Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette was with Keith Lee, and Renee ended up asking Keith Lee where his head is. So Swerve walked up to Keith Lee. Keith Lee ended up telling Swerve, "Choose your words wisely." Swerve then covered the camera and he kept saying, "Let's talk." And pretty much that was basically that. And then we had the first match of the night, which was Jake Hager versus Orange Cassidy, All-Atlantic Championship on the line. And this was a pretty entertaining match here. I know a lot of people I see in the IWC, calling Orange Cassidy a terrible wrestler. And to all the people that said, "Oh, Orange Cassidy is corny. He has a corny gimmick. Oh, he's a terrible wrestler." Yet he's the All-Atlantic Champion. I think with Orange Cassidy being the All-Atlantic Champion, I think that shut up all the haters online and in the IWC saying, "Oh, Orange Cassidy, he can't wrestle. He's terrible in the ring." That just shut them up of Cassidy winning the All-Atlantic Championship. Because Orange Cassidy is entertaining in the ring. And he is a good wrestler, in my opinion. He's very different from other wrestlers that compete. But I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's too much comedy with Orange Cassidy." I like the comedy from Orange Cassidy, especially, the kicks that he does, the crowd doing that, and then taking his shades off, putting it on, his opponent, and then putting his hands in his pockets. That's something that is original with, his gimmick. No other wrestler can put his hands in his pockets, run around, do a drop kick, still with their hands in their pockets. But we had Jake Hager end up making his way down to the ring first. He was accompanied by Daniel Garcia, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker. Of course, Jake Hager wearing that purple hat, which looks stupid on him. Might as well just have him come out dressed like Barney the Dinosaur and wear that hat. So Orange Cassidy then came out. Orange Cassidy got a good pop from the Chicago crowd, and he was accompanied by Rocky Romero and the Best Friends, Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor. So Orange Cassidy ended up tossing the All-Atlantic Championship in. The match ended up starting with Orange Cassidy handing his glasses to the ref. Hager ended up stealing his glasses, and he ended up wearing them. Jake Hager ended up wearing Orange Cassidy's glasses. So Orange Cassidy ended up putting his hands in his pockets. Orange Cassidy delivered the kicks, which went, "Oh, oh, oh," from the crowd. He ended up rolling through a clothesline from Jake Hager, and then Orange Cassidy delivered a drop kick. Hager came back with a pounce. He ended up sending Orange Cassidy in the corner. Orange Cassidy ended up avoiding a tackle by Hager, and he knocked the hat off of Hager. Orange Cassidy tossed Hager out. Orange Cassidy then grabbed the hat, to which Menard and Parker ended up trying to grab it. "Oh, so we're just trying to grab the hat." And Daniel Garcia ended up getting the hat, and Rocky Romero ended up pulling Daniel Garcia off. Orange Cassidy then grabbed the hat, and he ended up trying to go for a suicide dive to Hager, but Hager ended up catching him. Hager ended up sending Orange Cassidy into the ring post, and then to the ring apron, and then Hager ended up putting the purple hat back on, and then Dynamite went to commercial. So pretty much at this point here, all this that I said, "Oh, we're focusing on the purple hat of Jake Hager." Really? Might as well make the hat all elite. So then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Hager was in control of the match. Orange Cassidy was on the ground. Hager ended up picking Cassidy up, and Orange Cassidy ended up coming back on Hager. Hager ended up kicking Orange Cassidy's hands off the apron, and the best friends, Chucky T and Trent, were behind, and they ended up catching Orange Cassidy. Hager ended up running over the best friends, and Orange Cassidy came out of nowhere and delivered a suicide dive to Hager. Cassidy ended up avoiding Matt Menard. He ended up wiping out Daniel Garcia and 2.0, Menard and Angelo Parker. Hager ended up catching Orange Cassidy off the top, and Orange Cassidy countered with the stun dog on Hager, which was cool. Orange Cassidy then delivered a tornado DDT to Hager, to which he ended up going for the cover. Hager ended up kicking out. Orange Cassidy was looking to go for the orange punch, as once again, Jake Hager's hat was off. Hager ended up catching Orange Cassidy with a Uranagi, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Orange Cassidy kicked out. Hager ended up putting the hat back on, and he ended up going for the Vader Bomb. Orange Cassidy ended up avoiding that. Hager ended up locking in the ankle lock on Orange Cassidy. Cassidy ended up trying to kick Hager off, and Cassidy ended up kicking the hat off again. So we had Hager end up releasing Cassidy from the ankle lock. So Cassidy ended up delivering the orange punch to Hager, and he ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Orange Cassidy ended up winning the match, retaining the All-Atlantic Championship. Post-match, we had the best friends end up coming in, and they celebrated with Orange Cassidy. Cassidy then gave a thumbs up to the crowd, and Cassidy and the best friends, they were going to hug, but then they got interrupted by the factory, QT Marshall and his goons. So the factory ended up walking down, and QT ended up saying that they have unfinished business. He ended up saying that Orange Cassidy has no issues giving out shots. So QT Marshall's mic ended up getting cut. And I thought that this was some sort of technical issue. They could have gave QT, another mic. But as the factory got into the ring, QT was still trying to talk on the mic, but the mic was still out. So QT was like, oh, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, the lights go out in the arena. And all we saw as the lights came back on, a red light was on Julia Hart. Julia Hart was on the stage, and she ended up summoning the House of Black, Brody King, Buddy Matthews, and Malachi Black. And they were in the ring. So the House of Black took out the best friends, and the factory was outside of the ring. And so the House of Black then attack the factory. So the House of Black is going after the best friends and the factory. And security and other guys from the back were trying to stop the House of Black, but the House of Black ended up taking them all out. So the crowd was really loving this, and there was a huge welcome back chant for them from the Chicago crowd, which was great. So we had Brody King end up hitting Dante's Inferno to one of the staffers on the ramp. So Malachi Black got on the mic. He ended up saying, members of the House of Black, please rise. So then the lights went out again in the arena, and then Dynamite went to commercial. And pretty much that was basically that. But really, I'm glad that the House of Black is back on TV. I know Malachi Black wanted to take some time off for him to focus on his health, his mental health, and looks like he has recuperated very good. And I'm glad to see him back on TV along with Brody King and Buddy Matthews and Julia Hart. This is pretty much a redemption for the House of Black. And they need to be a top priority. And I think they're going to be chasing after the Trios Championship. I think they're going to have their eye on the Trios Championship. But they looked good tonight. And then we had Ethan Page versus Ricky Starks, the final match in the World Title Eliminator Tournament. And this was a decent match here. And the only reason why this Eliminator Tournament was booked was for that certain someone to take an L to the champion, to lose to the champion. Whether it was Jon Moxley, if he would have came out with the AEW World Championship, retaining it at Full Gear, or MJF. But we all know that MJF is the new world champion. So expect the winner of this match to take an L to MJF at Winter is Coming. So we had Page end up coming out with a mic in hand. He was accompanied by Stokely Hathaway. Page ended up running down Chicago. He ended up saying about how Ricky Starks has no shot against him. So Ricky Starks ended up coming out. Ricky Starks, he was bandaged up heavy. And the match started with Starks and Page circling each other. Page ended up kicking Starks' injured ribs. Starks came back, delivered a stand switch. Page ended up fighting out of that. Ended up going back to focus on Starks' injured ribs. So Page was just doing jumping jacks to mock Ricky Starks. Starks then delivered a kick to Page and some shots. And Page ended up headbutting Starks in the gut. He ended up sending Starks in the corner. So we had Page end up delivering a shoulder tackle to Starks' midsection. Starks came back, ended up delivering a chop to Page. Starks ended up trying to elevate over Page, but Page ended up kicking Starks down. Page started stomping Starks out in the corner, and he ended up hitting a big knee to Starks. So Page then taunted the crowd. He was trashing Starks, but Starks delivered a spear out of nowhere to Page, which was great. So Starks was down, both guys were down, and Starks ended up rolling out of the ring to catch his breath. Page ended up meeting Starks out of the ring, and he ended up throwing a kick to Starks. So then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Starks was in control of the match. He ended up delivering a shot to Page. He ended up sending Page into the corner. Page fought out of the corner, and Starks ended up trying to hit a DDT to Page, but Page ended up setting Starks up, ended up gunning him on the top rope. So Starks ended up trying to go for a dive to Page, but Stokely Hathaway pulled Ethan Page out of the way, and the referee ended up seeing that, and then the ref ejected Stokely Hathaway from ringside. So Stokely made his way to the back. Page and Stokely end up freaking out. Stokely Hathaway was upset that the ref was ejecting him from ringside. So Page ended up setting Starks back in the ring, and Page ended up heading up to the top. Starks ended up knocking Page down, and Starks ended up heading up to the top. Starks delivered some shots to Page, but Page delivered a blow to Starks. So Page ended up setting Starks up for Avalanche Fallaway, but Starks ended up fighting out of that. Starks went up to the top, and he delivered a superplex to Ethan Page. So both Starks and Page were down. The crowd was behind Ricky Starks. So both men were struggling to their feet. Starks ended up avoiding a shot from Page. Starks came back and delivered a swinging neck breaker to Page. Started firing up. So we had Starks ended up pinning the Rochambeau to Page, but Page ended up blocking that. And we had Page deliver a power slam to Starks. He ended up going for the cover. Starks ended up kicking out. So at the end of the match, we had Starks end up avoiding a clothesline from Page, and he delivered a spear to Page. So he ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Ricky Starks ended up winning the match. So Ricky Starks will now face MJF for the AEW World Championship at Winter is Coming. So Ricky Starks will be taking a L at Winter is Coming because he is not winning that match. MJF will retain that World Championship. But like I said, this tournament was booked to make whoever won the final match to take a loss to the champion. So this whole tournament was a waste. It was a waste of time. Only put together to have the winner in the final take a loss to the champion. So then we saw a video package of the match at Full Gear for the TNT Championship. So Wardlow was very angry and that he needed to make sure what happened. So then, as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we saw a video of the Jade Cargill confrontation with Bow Wow. Apparently, Jade Cargill and her baddies went to Bow Wow's tour, and she was just having a confrontation with Bow Wow, just screaming at him. And Jade Cargill and her baddies was escorted out by security. So we saw the footage of that. And then Renee Paquette was with Jade Cargill. She ended up asking Jade, what's going on? Jade ended up saying, no comment. And that I am happy I finally got my TBS championship back with no help. She ended up saying there is going to be a baddie celebration next week. So Mark Sterling ended up coming up. He ended up saying no comment on Bow Wow. So Mark Sterling ended up handing a paper to Kiera Hogan. So it turns out that Kiera Hogan got fired by Mark Sterling. So Kiera Hogan is not a baddie no more. So pretty much that was basically that. And then we have match number 2 in the Best of 7 series for the AEW Trios Championship. The Elite versus the Death Triangle. So we had the Death Triangle win at Full Gear. And we had the Elite end up coming out first. Of course, they came out to Carry On Wayward Son by Kansas, just like they did at Full Gear. And they got booed by the crowd there in Chicago. The Elite got booed. And then we had the Death Triangle. We had Penta and Rey Fenix and Pac end up making their way out. So we had the match start off with Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega started off with Rey Fenix. And Fenix ended up trying to explain himself because Kenny Omega was trashing Fenix about the hammer. So Fenix and Kenny Omega, they end up shaking hands, but Kenny Omega end up wiping out Fenix. And we just had the Elite end up taking out the Death Triangle. They started stomping away, and they wiped out Penta and Pac at ringside. We had Penta end up taking out Nick Jackson with the Sling Blade. Pac followed up with a kick to Nick Jackson. So we saw Phoenix ended up delivering the tornillo, which took out everyone, which was great. So we had later on, Kenny Omega and Pac were slugging it out. Kenny Omega ended up getting the upper hand. He ended up getting the bulldog on Pac, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Pac ended up kicking out. Matt Jackson ended up tagging in, and they were fighting during the commercial, during the picture-in-picture. And then we saw Matt Jackson was still in control of the match as Dynamite came back from the commercial. Matt Jackson ended up wiping out Penta, and Kenny Omega started biting Pac. Kenny Omega ended up getting dumped on his head by Pac. Pac ended up pinning a German suplex to Omega. We saw Kenny Omega later on. He ended up pinning the GTS, which was a nod to CM Punk. So Kenny Omega ended up pinning the GTS on Pac, and he ended up going for the cover. Pac ended up kicking out. And the crowd was chanting, I think, fuck CM Punk. So at the end of the match, Matt Jackson ended up having the hammer because Brandon Cutler ended up throwing the hammer to Matt Jackson. So Penta was in the back of Matt Jackson. Penta ended up having a hammer too, and he ended up clocking Matt Jackson in the head with the hammer. And so Penta ended up going for the cover, and there you go. The Death Triangle ended up winning the match. So the Death Triangle is now up 2-0. So the next match, match 3 will take place on Dynamite next week. So post-match, Phoenix was upset at Penta. Pac ended up trying to calm him down. Don Callis, who was on commentary during the match, he was very silent at the Elite losing again. So then after that, Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette was on the stage, and she had to have an announcement. And that announcement was that Thunder Rosa has relinquished the AEW Women's World Championship. Good. So Renee ended up introducing the official new AEW Women's World Champion, Jamie Hayter. To which Jamie Hayter came out, was accompanied by Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Rebel. So Renee ended up saying congrats to Jamie Hayter. She ended up asking her how she feels. So then Britt Baker ended up interrupting Jamie Hayter. She ended up saying that Jamie is the undisputed AEW Women's Champion. She ended up saying that we weren't even calling her interim. The whole interim shit, in my opinion, was bullshit. I mean, do we really need an interim AEW World Champion or interim AEW Women's World Champion? No, because they are not considered the champion. They're just champion because, someone is out with an injury. So they're not officially champion. So, but the whole interim shit is fucking bullshit. I mean, we didn't need interim champions. And then we had the 3-way women's tag team match. Will Nightingale and Skye Blue versus Anna Jay and Ty Mello versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter. This was just a very meh match in my opinion. Anna Jay and Ty Mello end up making their way down to the ring. Both of them cringe. Will Nightingale and Skye Blue, came to the ring during the commercial. Jamie Hayter and Ty Mello end up starting off the match. Hayter end up locking in a side headlock on Ty Mello. She followed up with a couple of shoulder tackles to Melo. Anna Jay end up interrupting but Jamie Hayter ended up hitting a double suplex to Melo and Anna Jay. So it was a nice double suplex on them. Jamie Hayter delivered another suplex to Melo, to which she went for the cover. Melo ended up kicking out, and Britt Baker ended up taking in. Britt Baker got a crucifix pin on Melo, to which Melo ended up kicking out, and she ended up hitting the sling blade to Melo. Melo was able to get a shot in at Britt Baker, and she tagged in Anna Jay. Britt Baker ended up taking out to Willow Nightingale. Willow ended up taking out both Anna Jay and Melo, and she ended up hitting the big boot and a scoop slam to Anna Jay. So Skye Blue ended up delivering a splash, an assisted splash, and Willow ended up going for the cover, to which Anna Jay ended up kicking out too. So Will Nightingale ended up getting sent out of the ring. Melo ended up sending her into the barricade. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Skye Blue was in control of the match. She ended up hitting Anna Jay with a super kick. Jamie Hayter ended up breaking up the pin. Britt Baker ended up taking in, and she ended up hitting a neck breaker on Skye Blue. So at the end of the match, Skye Blue delivered the code red on Melo. She ended up going for the cover, to which Britt Baker ended up breaking up the pin. Britt Baker delivered a stomp on Skye Blue, and Britt Baker ended up going for the cover. And they go Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker ended up winning the match. Overall, very meh match in my opinion. But post-match, they end up announcing that Toni Storm's run was official and not interim, and that she is now in the record books. So they're actually counting Toni Storm's run as the champion. Good. So then we saw FTR and Top Flight backstage. They were with Renee Paquette. Dax ended up complimenting both Top Flight. And he ended up saying that he knows they've had injury woes, and they want them to take over tag team wrestling. Top Flight ended up saying that it's a dream match to fight them and challenge them for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles, which that match is going to be taking place on Rampage on Friday, which Rampage is going to be on at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on TNT. So it won't be on at 10. So if you're willing to watch Rampage, it's going to be on Friday at 4 o'clock. And then we saw the Acclaimed. Matchcaster Anthony Bowens ended up coming out accompanied by Billy Gunn. Matchcaster ended up talking about breaking up Swerve and about how they retained Jeff Jarrett. And he ended up saying that it's Acclaimed every Wednesday. So both of the Acclaimed, they were wearing the scissor-themed Christmas shirts, which looked pretty cool. So Bowens ended up asking to cut the music. And we had a scissor chant break out from the crowd. Bowens ended up saying that he's thankful they retained the AEW World Tag Team titles, and that everyone loves the Acclaimed. He ended up saying that his shoulder is better, but most importantly, Billy Gunn's hand is okay, because Billy Gunn ended up taking off the tape, and he threw the tape. And then they ended up going to scissor, oh, scissor me, daddy. But they got interrupted by Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt on the screen. Of course, Satnam Singh was there. And then Jeff Jarrett ended up walking in. Jarrett ended up saying, "Listen up, ass clowns. Want to talk smack, Max? You best be watching your back." So Billy Gunn ended up saying, "Get that old ass off my screen. I still have some pull." And when Jeff Jarrett was saying that, we heard, and I laughed at this. I really laughed at this. When Jeff Jarrett was saying that, you heard from the crowd there, TNA sucks. And I was just laughing. They were like, TNA sucks! TNA sucks! They should have chanted, Impact sucks. So then we had them say, oh, now the moment you've waited for. Chicago, scissor me daddy ass. And pretty much that was basically that. But the Acclaim coming out there, hyping up the crowd. It was pretty good. Billy Gunn, okay, with his hand. And then we had the main event. Chris Jericho defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Tomohiro Ishii. And this was a very good match here. Iya Riccaboni was on commentary during the match. So Jericho ended up making his way out. Of course, the crowd singing along to Judas. So then the match got underway. We had Ishii being emotionless to Jericho. He was staring down Jericho. Jericho then flipped off the crowd, and then he flipped off Ishii. So Ishii ended up slapping Jericho. It was a slap fight between Jericho and Ishii at this point in the match. Ishii ended up knocking Jericho down. He ended up welcoming Jericho back into the ring as Jericho ended up trying to go for some elbow strikes. Ishii ended up absorbing those strikes, and they ended up going back and forth. Ishii then delivered a belly-to-back suplex to Jericho. Ishii avoided the code-breaker, and Jericho ended up avoiding a kick from Ishii. So Ishii ended up driving through Jericho. Jericho ended up coming back. He was slapping away at Ishii. And they ended up doing a chop battle, both Ishii and Jericho. And they were going back and forth, rapid-fire chops at each other. Jericho's chest was busted open. It was bleeding profusely from those chops. Legitimately bleeding from those hard chops from Ishii. So they were just firing chops still at each other. Ishii ended up powering out of the corner. He tackled Jericho. Jericho then delivered a boot to Ishii, and he started stomping away to Ishii. Jericho ended up chopping Ishii again, ended up hitting the 10 punches in the corner, but Ishii came back and delivered a powerbomb to Jericho. He ended up going for the cover, and Jericho ended up kicking out. So we had Ishii on the apron. He ended up trying to suplex Jericho, and they were both on the apron. Jericho ended up delivering a shot, and they both ended up tumbling down. So both guys were still slugging it out. They ended up getting back in the ring. So Ishii ended up hitting a German suplex to Jericho. Jericho ended up delivering a lion salt to Ishii, and he ended up going for the cover. Ishii kicked out. Jericho hit the code breaker, ended up going for the cover. Ishii kicked out. He was then looking to go for the Judas effect, but it got blocked by Ishii. And then Ishii delivered a headbutt to Jericho, and then a sliding lariat. So Ishii ended up going for the cover, and Jericho ended up kicking out. Ishii ended up trying to go for the brainbuster, but Jericho blocked that. Jericho locked in the walls. So Ishii ended up powering out of the walls and delivered a lariat. So Ishii ended up going for the cover. Jericho ended up kicking out. So at the end of the match, Jericho locked in the Lion Tamer. Jericho ended up wrenching back. Ishii ended up flipping him off. And then Ishii tapped out. So there you go. Chris Jericho, the Ocho, end up winning the match, retaining the Ring of Honor World Championship. Post-match, Jericho was up the ramp, and he was staring down at Ian Riccaboni. And we had Claudio Castagnoli end up appearing. Claudio then ended up slapping Jericho, Jericho got knocked down, and that was how Dynamite went off the air. Overall, very good match from Ishii and Jericho. Both guys gave it all they got. Those chops that they did to each other were brutal, and seeing Jericho's chest bleeding profusely from those chops was crazy. So, but overall, Dynamite, entertaining show tonight. Very good show. But anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all tomorrow with the tradition every year that I do on Thanksgiving morning vlog. So see you all tomorrow for that, and hope you all enjoy your night. So see you all tomorrow.